apparently, Andrew Cuomo is the governor of New York. So the New York Democratic Party is having their convention the last few days on Long Island. Hillary Clinton was the keynote speaker to nominate Governor Cuomo for his third term. He's running for his third term as governor. And, I didn't cover New York politics that much because I've been out in the field covering stuff all around. But I know enough about Cuomo to say, not exactly a progressive. Not exactly a progressive. But there were some real doozies put out there at this convention today and the last few days from some of the leading establishment figures in your Democratic Party. Ready for this? So we had our friend Joe Biden speak on behalf of the Governor Cuomo, and Joe Biden said, "Today, I take a backseat to no one on my progressive values. No one," says Biden. And by the way, Andrew Cuomo has never backed away from his progressive values. Oh, is that so? Say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so. So apparently Joe Biden, who's coming to speak and endorse Governor Cuomo for a third term, obviously Cuomo is running against Cynthia Nixon. She's an activist. She was an actress in Sex and the City. Biden says, "I take a backseat to no one for progressive values." Well, if progressive values have been redefined as voting for NAFTA, voting to deregulate Wall Street in the 90s, voting for the crime bill, which put an unprecedented amount of black people in jail under President Clinton, voting for welfare reform, which threw single poor mothers off the welfare rolls, voting for the Iraq War, voting to deregulate the media industry, if that's now what the progressive values are, Joe Biden's one of the most progressive individuals out there. Just keeping it real. Let me go down the list one more time. Voted for NAFTA. Was also very pro-TPP and was trying to help President Obama get the TPP through. Voted for the Iraq War. Voted to deregulate Wall Street in the 1990s. Voted for the crime bill, which only put black people in jail for nonviolent crimes. Voted for welfare reform, which essentially threw poor single mothers and poor people off the welfare rolls so that Newt Gingrich and the Republican Party could get their dying wish. Voted to deregulate the media industry. I mean, I could go on. But Joe Biden, standing there at the Democratic Convention, for the New York Democratic Convention, for progressive Andrew Cuomo, says, "Oh, I will not take a back seat to anybody upon my progressive values." I guess he's talking about Bernie Sanders because there's all this hullabaloo that Biden might run for president in 2020. I actually don't think he's going to, but, the puff pieces have already began ahead of his potential run. So Biden said that. Then, these people for the working poor, Governor Cuomo on Biden's comparison of their Corvettes. It's true Biden's is better looking, but it wouldn't beat mine. Quote, "He doesn't know what I have under the hood. He's not going to beat me down the quarter mile. That I can promise you." Oh man, are these people out there for the working poor, aren't they? Shooting the spit about their Corvettes. That's who I want representing my needs if I'm struggling to pay health care, if I'm struggling to pay my rent, if I'm struggling to put food on the table for my children. Let's just have people compare their Corvettes. This is the kind of rhetoric that's coming out at the New York Democratic Convention. But here was my favorite. You know a guy named Tom Perez? He's the Democratic National Committee chairman. He's all about, progressives who get things done. So you got Tom Perez, who has been pushing these neoliberal, corrupt, Wall Street loving candidates. He went on TV with Bernie Sanders last year. Bernie's like, "Yeah, we need Medicare for all." Tom Perez is like huffing and puffing. "Oh, well, I can't say Medicare for all because my donors won't like it." He hasn't really changed anything, really, in terms of the Democratic National Committee or corruption within the party. But, it's Tom Perez. So take a guess what Tom Perez had to say. I mean, the entitlement and arrogance has no bounds with these people. We often have debates about what wing of the Democratic Party we belong to, said Tom Perez, declaring that they're from the accomplishments wing of the party. While running through Cuomo's record, Tom Perez is from Tom Perez, Joe Biden, Andrew Cuomo. They're from the accomplishment wing of the Democratic Party. Such accomplishments like losing to a reality TV star, used car salesman in Donald Trump, or losing over 1,000 seats all over the country over the last decade. Or now a poll just came out showing that if the elections were held today, the Republican Party would still keep the House. I mean, it never ends with these people. But they're from the accomplishment wing of the party. Well, they did just, good point, Frank, they did just accomplish something. 17 Democrats in the Senate and 33 in the House just helped the Republican Party deregulate Wall Street again. They were able to, I mean, it's not a full repeal of Dodd-Frank, but it might as well be. They just passed, and Trump signed today, with North Dakota Senator Heidi Heitkamp standing right next to her. That Democratic senator from North Dakota, she's up for re-election. They passed today the rolling back of regulations on Dodd-Frank to basically take off those onerous regulations from the big banks like Wells Fargo and Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America, you know, because they didn't just take down the economy a decade ago, right? That you're still suffering from. Let's roll back the regulations. That sounds like a smart thing. And Heidi Heitkamp and 17 Democrats pretended that they were voting for it because it helps small community banks. Well, why couldn't you say, we're going to help small community banks, but not if it means taking any of the regulations off against big banks? It's called an amendment. But of course they didn't care about this because all these Democrats, half of them up for re-election, are in love with Wall Street. In one breath, they tell you they're the party of the working people and they're fighting for you and blah, 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 while they then repeal Dodd-Frank. That literally, after a decade, just a decade ago, these banks took down the global economy. But why let facts stop a good thing, right? So Tom Perez also said, in an apparent parting shot at Cynthia Nixon and Bill de Blasio, he said, Cuomo and Kathy Hochul, don't know who that is, are charter members of the accomplishment wing of the Democratic Party. We're charter members of the accomplishment wing of the Democratic Party. Please, as I exit the building, get me my sail. We want to sail down to Nantucket this weekend because we are charter members of the accomplishment wing of the Democratic Party. How was my accent there? So, they haven't learned anything. Now, if Tom Perez wants to back Andrew Cuomo, that's his prerogative. But it's this arrogance. It's this talk, Joe Biden saying, my progressive values, I second to no one my progressive values. And Tom Perez, we're the accomplishment wing. Cynthia Nixon and these people, they're just like Bernie bros and gals. They don't accomplish anything. Yeah. That's going to help. It's going to help you retake the House of Representatives. It's going to help you try to win over progressive voters who know you're corrupt. That's certainly going to help, let me tell you. Saying basically Cynthia Nixon and other progressives are a bunch of losers. Because that's essentially what he's saying. If they're the accomplishment wing, what is Cynthia Nixon and Bill de Blasio and Bernie Sanders and these people? It's good messaging. Good messaging to try to bring in the progressive wing of the party. You know, the real progressives that actually want to stop these trade deals that give away all of our jobs, that don't vote for bills that jail black people at a disproportionate rate, that don't vote for endless war, killing soldiers, killing innocent civilians in Middle Eastern countries, and robbing us of the investment we need in America.